Today is Veterans Day, and I am here with my favorite veteran, my father. Thank you for joining us. Today we have a story that he told me a few years ago about the Maroon Beret and also about the American flag on the soldier's uniform. First, give me a little insight on you were a Pathfinder back in, kind of give me the years and what exactly was a Pathfinder.
Well, it was the 8th Division Pathfinders. They're the reactionary force for Europe. If anything happens against the United States interest in the European theater, the 8th Division would be called on to react to whatever that was. So we were airborne infantry mechanized. That means we would jump from planes with APCs, trucks, anything like that, and take care of the situation. So typically Pathfinders would secure an airport somewhere so the rest of the service could land. And that's basically the role of the 8th Division Pathfinder.
How many times do you think you've jumped out of an airplane?
Oh, I don't know. But we did it on like over there, we did it on a regular basis.
Right. Okay.
You know, once or twice a month, once a month, something like that.
A few years ago, you told me a story that happened in Germany about the American flag, and you'll notice on this uniform, which is your uniform, correct?
Uh-huh.
So this is from the 1971, 70?
Yeah.
You'll notice that the American flag on here is the right side, which is called flag protocol, correct?
Well,
Correct.
no, the way the flag is flying is flag protocol.
Okay. But you'll notice on today's uniforms, that flag is actually turned around,
Right,
correct?
which is against flag protocol.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about that story, how it happened, and also there's a little bit of info in there about the Maroon Beret.
Yeah, yeah. We had all kinds of training exercises that we went on. We might go on a training exercise in the middle of the night, and they would parachute us somewhere and then come back. We might go for 3 or 4 days and actually load all the tanks and APCs and so forth up on trains and go assault a mountain for 4 or 5 days and then come back. So just all kinds of training exercises, and somewhere along the line we were going to train for combat in the city. And so for whatever reason we were being sent to Berlin, and we were the first company-size element to go to Berlin since World War II. And so when that happened, they decided, because we were an airborne unit, for whatever reason, we would wear the American flag. So you might think back to Eisenhower right before D-Day. Oh, shit. Anyway.
So back in World War II, that was the last time that soldiers wore the American flag on the uniform, correct?
Yeah, they put the flag on for D-Day, for jumping into France, so they could be identified as Americans. So in the middle of the night, it's just not people running around, right, you know, that you're shooting at each other. Yeah, you can see the flag and so forth. So
in World War II, they wore it this way though, correct?
Yeah, in World War II, they had a little different looking flag. It was a little bigger patch, a little broader, et cetera, and that's the flag they had. And at the end of World War II, they discontinued it. So we were the first to get to wear it since World War II.
And you're going through the Berlin Wall, which is, you called it Checkpoint Charlie. It was the only way to get through?
No, I always thought that Berlin, East Berlin and East Germany, West Germany, there was a dividing line, and Berlin just happened to be in the middle. It's not. Berlin is out in the middle of East Germany. So we had to get orders from that are written in Russian from the Russians to get to go to East Berlin. And we actually went to West Berlin to have the war games and this combat in the city training, which I think was October or something of 1971. And at the end of it, as kind of a reward, we got to go into, or not, maybe not a reward, but for whatever reason, we were the first company-size element to go through Checkpoint Charlie into East Berlin. And back in 1971, when you looked at the East from the West, it just looked kind of like a city. But when you walk through checkpoint or go through checkpoint Charlie and get about 2 blocks in, it looked like World War II. And all they'd done is clean the rubbles up,
So
rubble off
there's
the
still holes in the wall. And
holes in the wall, you know, I mean, and the people walking around looked super depressed.
so
but-
in 30 years, they hadn't done much to improve.
Oh, no, I mean, they were, it was depressing. I mean, they, from what I understood, you know, they put that Berlin Wall up and trapped, you know, those people over there. And so we got to see the, you know, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, the changing of the guard. They had a huge 250-foot statue of this lady holding a baby, and she's got a sword like this, and it's Mother Russia holding the new Germany, and she's stepping on a swastika. And surrounding up, maybe the size of half of a football field, is one slab after another depicting World War II
Yeah.
between the Russians and the Germans. And there's 5 huge bronze wreaths in front of her and one small one. And under each wreath was 1,000 Russian soldiers buried, standing up, facing Moscow.
Holy cow.
So it was just really impressive, you know. So for whatever reason we went through there, why did we go through there? I don't know. But something was changing in the world. And so then we came back, and 4 months had gone by, and we got to continue to wear the flag. So it was now issued, at least to us, to continue to wear. And
So you guys are one of the only people in the American Army wearing flags at this
right
time.
then, yeah, it was, as far as I knew, it was just our company, one company, you know, got to continue to
How
wear
many
it.
people were in a company?
I think there was 62 of us that went into Berlin. And then 4 months later, one of the exercises was we were going to jump with the Germans. These are German jump wings. And so the exercise was actually shown on German TV in Europe. And so for 5 days, we jumped with the Germans, their instructors, their helicopters, and made 5 jumps. For 5 days, they jumped with the Americans, their instructors, and our helicopters. And so at the end of the whole thing, we're sitting there basically getting drunk with the Germans and celebrating
Good German beer.
good German beer, having a great time. And we had our dress uniform on, which we have a service cap. And if you remember, they just kind of look like a, I won't say it, but they, you know, just, we
They're
hated them.
flat. You can fold them flat, right?
Yeah, you fold them flat and you stick them up here and
Kind of looks like something a cook would wear in the back.
yeah, yeah. So we hated them, but the Germans loved them. So while we're sitting there getting drunk, they wanted to wear our service cap. And I thought, you know, have at it. Why would you want to do that? So they're wearing the service caps, and somewhere along the line, they wanted us to start wearing their maroon berets. And we really didn't want to do that because of the special forces, and at the time, they were the only ones that wore a beret. They had the green beret.
Green beret, yeah.
So we didn't want to do that, and we had just gotten a colonel fresh from the Pentagon that was now in charge of our battalion. So we're sitting there getting drunk with them, and we thought that colonel could walk in here at any time, and then we'd be out of uniform, you know, having these berets on, all drunk and whatever.
So what's the penalty for something like that?
Oh, who knows? You know, but there would have been, you know, some kind of, yeah, we'd pay for it. It'd be a disrespect or, you know, whatever. So the next thing you know, a couple more beers go by, and we're forgetting about all that. And so some of the guys have got berets on, and sure enough, as soon as those berets went on some of our heads, in walks his colonel. And he crosses his arm and he goes, "What the hell are you guys doing?" And it's like you could feel yourself shrinking back, like, "Oh shit, you know what? God dang it, I knew it." And this colonel says, "I like it," before anybody could even respond. So it's like, whew, you know. And then he said, "What else have you got?" And I said, "Well, you can turn this flag around." And he said, "Well, why would we want to do that? That flag flies in flag protocol. So anytime you're flying a flag horizontally, you fly it this direction. If you fly it vertically, you turn it this way, and the stars were over here. So I told him, I said, because this makes it look like we're running away from the shit. We don't run away from the shit, we run into it.
Right. So it looks like you're running away because when someone runs a flag into war, no matter which direction
Right,
you're looking,
right.
it's going one way. So if you're on the right side of it, if someone is actually holding the flag, you're looking actually at the back side of the flag.
Yeah,
Is that
they
right?
could have put it on the left side and I'd have been fine with it. But when you're in combat, everything has to feel right. Everything has to go right. You have to have total control. So for 4 months, I've been wearing that thing and just felt
Fell off.
out of balance.
So what was on the left side of this? Why didn't they put it on the left side?
Well, that's a question they'd have to answer. This left side is the 8th Division. And when you're not in combat, you're with a unit and you haven't been in, or you could be in combat, but until you've served with that unit, completed the tour, this is what you wear on the left side.
Yeah.
Okay, once you've completed a tour in combat, then you get to wear the insignia over here. So why they picked the right side, I don't know. But when they did, I think it's because that's the side they wore, in World War II.
Yeah.
But as soon as they did that, it just knocked me off balance.
Yeah.
So,
What was the rest of everyone's opinion on that? Did they share the same opinion?
no, what happened was, it was kind of funny if I remember. The colonel just looked at me and then walked out. So I didn't know, all right, now am I in trouble for that, or,
Yeah.
what's happening? So at that point, I only had a few weeks left in the service. So they came back to us somewhere in that time frame and said that he'd used his connections with the Pentagon and that we were going to be issued Maroon Berets. And that would be the new service cap cover for the airborne. So it was like, great. And so when do they get here? And it's like, oh, that's going to be a while. Somebody's got to
Sure.
make them, et cetera. And so we just said, well, if they say that's what's going to happen, we all went out on the economy, the German economy, and bought these berets. Okay, so
Are these
this,
the same ones that the Germans were wearing, or just like
yeah,
different?
yeah, no, I think they're the same ones. But right, this is a flash. That was our battalion flash. And so these were the first Maroon Berets, whether it was totally authorized, semi-authorized, or whatever, that were worn by the United States. And so to show who we were in the beret, we put that flash on there. Now they have a totally different insignia and way to describe that and so forth.
Sure. So how much time passed before you started noticing that the flag was actually turned around on the uniform?
Well, for me, I don't even remember how long it was. I knew about that. In fact, I wore one home.
The Maroon Beret.
Yeah, well, I was so proud of it that my head's so big, I couldn't even find one big enough to wear. So I just kind of had it laying on my head.
Like
On
a poet artist.
Yeah, so it didn't really even fit. But so I'm coming home. I make it all the way through Europe, all the way through, I think it was New Jersey or New York or something we came through. And I made it to St. Louis, and 2 MPs stopped me and tell me that, what are you doing? Take that off. And I described it to them, and they wanted to see the orders and all that sort of thing, and I didn't have any. So I took it off, and I already had my service cap ready, to put back on. But at least I didn't get arrested or anything.
And at this point, you are completely out. You've put in your time, and you're out of the.
Yeah, I'm out of the service. As soon as I get home, I take the uniform off and, put civilian clothes on. So, but that's how it all ended up happening. And so it was a period of time before I saw the Maroon Berets, which I already knew. I thought that, were issued, et cetera. And then I can't remember when I saw the American flag. And I thought, well, is that a coincidence or whatever that, they've turned it around?
Yeah.
And it just so happened that years later, I'm up at the bank, and here's a vehicle with the 173rd emblem on it. And so I wait, and the guy comes out and goes to his car, and it's a Iraqi veteran. And I said, hey, how you doing? And, you know, I was with the herd also and everything. And we start talking. And I said, how come you fly that flag that way? Isn't that against flag protocol? And then he said, well, they told us that some guy said we don't run into the shit we run away from, or we don't run away from the shit we run into it. And I thought, I'll be darned. So that just kind of confirmed to me that, you know, at least they remembered that much. But I'm not saying that I'm the one that did this. If we hadn't got, I mean, we can give Germans the credit for it. They're the ones that kind of started the whole conversation. It's whoever decided we needed to go to Berlin was involved. And the colonel is the one that, while I said it, he's the one that swung the bat. He's standing at the plate, he got the pitch, and he liked it, and he's the one that took it further. And there's other people, but that's the story how it happened.
You know, after you told me the story a few years ago, I tried to do as much research online, and there's really not any definitive, you know, government website, military website that tells any story of when the flag was turned backwards.
Yeah.
And why it's turned backwards. Really.
Well, that's the reason. And so what happens is you can go, I don't know that colonel's name, because he got there as I was leaving, and really I had no day-to-day or weekly involvement with the colonel, you know, just the colonel, you know. So, but you could go back to the orders that I've got that put me in Berlin, and the orders that I've got that put me to going to jump with the Germans, and you'll find the commanding officer for the battalion back then. And once you find that commanding officer, he's the person, you know, that really made it happen. But then there's other people that, you know, are in the company that will be on those orders that can, you know, testify to it. I've tried to have the service do something about it, research it, and, you know, they don't have time. Yeah, they're not going to do it. And the shame of it is that's the part they're missing. So many veterans care about some of these details that they just kind of overlook, like, well, we don't have time for that, you know. Anyway.
Well, that's an amazing story, and you know, I wanted to do this interview because I think it's worth sharing, especially on something like Veterans Day. So, thank you for taking your time.
Yeah.
I know it's not easy to talk about.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, and if you guys know a veteran today, reach out to them, tell them thank you, and tell them you appreciate that their service in what they did. So, thank you so much for watching, and thank you.
Welcome.